Hello and welcome to another episode of Coconut Chats. First of all, we would like to thank all of our listeners who've supported us so far, and to the people who've joined us today, a warm welcome to all of you. I hope you learn to listen to us and you learn a lot from what we are going to talk about today. This month, as you all are aware, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that is exactly what we would be going to talk about in this special episode. We have a very special guest speaker with us, and we will be hearing it first-hand accounts of what that person experienced in her journey. Before moving on to the guest speaker, I have with me Shomita,
Hello, everyone.
and I take great honor in welcoming our guest speaker, Jagrati Shah. She is a resident of Melbourne, Australia. She is an IT professional. She's multi-talented, and she's a mother of a 6-year-old who's equally talented. Jagrati, welcome on our show, and thank you for doing this. How are you?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Shomita. I'm doing well, and thank you for inviting me to the show and using your medium to talk about breast cancer.
Thanks, Jagrati. I have to thank you for doing this because not a lot of people have that courage to come up and speak about their journey, and you're doing this. And rest assured that so many people will be learning so much after you tell them what you went through. So I'll jump right on to my first, not question exactly, we'll just kind of know more from you what happened. So if I take you back to those days where you were just diagnosed, like how did you find out what was going on? How did you find out if something was wrong with you? What happened?
So this is one day at night, quarter to 10 in the night. Suddenly, I just felt the lump, and it was quite a big lump. And then I was lucky to get a GP appointment half an hour later, and I went into her, and she asked me to get an ultrasound done as soon as possible. And once the GP had those results, they were like, it was the weekend and it was a Durga Puja weekend. So on the Friday night, they were like, try to get your mammogram done if you can, if on the weekend, if it's possible. So that's how we celebrated Durga Puja on the weekend. And Monday, when got my mammogram done. And, that's when I was sent on to a breast surgeon who then said, looking at all the data that I have, it looks quite possible that you have breast cancer. And then they did a biopsy to find out what's the stage of your cancer, what's the grade of cancer, how aggressive it is, what's the type of cancer depending on the location,
Mm-hmm.
and also whether the cancer is feeding on the hormones estrogen and progesterone, and or whether the cancer is binding to a protein called herceptin. uh, so all of these factors then impact your treatment plan and determine what your treatment plan should be, of course
Yeah.
considering your age into account and all. So that's how it went, and then we came up with a treatment plan and went on from there.
When we talk about the lump geography, so if this is just for many women out there who might not be aware. So how did you feel? Was it painful? Was it like when you feel the breast, was it painful to the touch or you could just feel it from over the skin? How was it?
So in my case it wasn't painful, it was just like it wasn't there and suddenly it was there.
Mm, okay.
I would just say in the morning as well I wasn't aware of it, and in the nighttime it was there. So I think it also depends on the position you are in, like if you're lying on the bed or um, if you're upright like we are most of the days. So
Yeah.
that's how I felt it. So I think I would probably have found it earlier if I was like regularly examining my breasts.
Yeah.
And typically what I have read on the Cancer Council Australia website is that the lumps can be regular or irregular. So the ones that are in fact irregular and that they don't pain could be cancerous. There are more chances of them being cancerous. So it was that sort of thing for me. I think a lot of women also have discharge from their nipples. They have redness, they have pain,
Yeah.
depending on where the lump starts. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
regularly examining your breasts and having a mammogram done if you're above 40. And obviously, if you've someone in your family's got breast cancer and you're genetically,
Yeah.
if that's what's determined, then having checks done as early as 25, 30 onwards is a good thing to do.
That's good. Shomita, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so there was a time when breast cancer was only known in developed countries, and now in 2020. It is the top cancer in women worldwide, and it's increasing, particularly in developing countries where majority of the cases are diagnosed much later in the stage when it is more difficult to cure it. So early diagnosis is definitely very important for the cure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. From here, I will move on to the next section, which is probably the hardest part, treatment. So, Jagrutadi, how did um, you keep yourself going through this whole year? You said it started last year during the Durga Puja, so it's again the Durga Puja month now. How did you handle the days that were tough or when you felt low?
Um, I think my family and my trusted circle of friends, they were what really kept me going, you know. When I wanted support, when I wanted to vent out, when I was feeling tired, low, when I needed help, they were always there. Uh, and the other thing I did was that I took up my hobby and I took up something new within my hobby.
Yeah.
And that just gave me some sort of joy and purpose. So, you know, I wasn't being morose or depressed sitting at home. And that just helped me come out of the feelings when you're feeling low. And the other thing, being in Australia, that helps is that Medicare has these subsidized psychology sessions that you can take under the mental health care plan or the chronic pain management
Yeah.
plan, which you know, can be useful at different parts of your treatment, where each part of the treatment could hit a person differently, you know,
Yeah.
be it chemotherapy or be it radiation, or be it the loss of your hair, or you know, the side effects that come in. So I think taking care of your mental health along with your physical health, so consulting a dietitian and a exercise physiologist and all of that just you know, helped.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Shramita, thoughts? Any thoughts?
No, yeah, like hearing it from her is what is adding value to our session here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jagrutadi, moving on, you have been working, you have a career, and in fact, you and me, we started with the same company back in India. We have that in common. Yeah. So, as an IT professional, I know how important it is to interact with the team on a day-to-day basis, especially you are a scrum master, so you have to talk to the entire team, interact with them. How did cancer impact your work, and what were the factors that you considered to decide whether you will go for work on a particular day or not?
Sure. So I did work for part of my treatment, but like you mentioned, you know, I'm a scrum master and interacting with the team is a big major part of what I do. So once I started chemotherapy, it can lead to low immunity, and then you know, you could catch bugs easily, and that's when I took a call with the doctors to, you know, just take break from work and be at home. And then the other factors that also impacted were, you know, the distance from my workplace, if it's an
Yeah.
hour of travel, and my hospitals, which are at the other end of the city, you know. Also, as I went forward, I'm glad that I took that break because there were some, you know, side effects, rare side effects, which we didn't know about. I had needed either blood transfusions or things like that, or hospital visits, which were not planned.
Yeah.
So it just helped that I was at home, and then I could, you know, just focus myself on my family, on my daughter, and making sure to keep things as normal as I can for her
Yeah.
whilst going through the treatment. So I think it's a factor of, there's like no right or wrong decision here for anyone. It just depends on your situation, what kind of work you're doing, whether you're physically going to be able to do it, you know, are you mentally going to be able to do it, is there flexibility, is it your own business,
Hmm.
you know, are you working in a leadership role, do you have help, how flexible your workplace is. Lots of factors to consider. I think another thing that helped me a lot is having income protection, which is here, which is what we have here in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So that does give you some sort of financial stability. You get part of your income at least, and that, you know, can keep
Yeah.
people going, especially those who are single parents or single moms, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I think
That
that's yeah.
that you mentioned, Jagrati, just a very quick note on that. You mentioned that your daughter was a very important part in this whole process because you wanted to make sure that you come across as being as normal as you can to her. So any message or advice you would like to give out to those single mothers you just mentioned, someone who's having a young toddler or someone who has a child but is having difficulty in communicating with the child? How would you not suggest, but how would you just give them two pieces of your thoughts that how is the best way to advise or process this topic with your child?
Sure. So when I was diagnosed, I had the same question, and I got in touch with Cancer Council Australia helpline,
Mm.
and they sent me across a booklet information which mentioned your child's age as per the ages, whether they are toddlers or they are, primary school goers or high schoolers
Yeah.
or whatever the age range, and what words you should use to communicate to them, and what kind of reactions you can expect from them. Uh, when you tell them about your diagnosis, to, when you're going through those difficult phases. So I think that was a very good starting point. And then once I told my daughter's school teacher, she got me in touch with the school counselor who was able to guide me further on how to talk about it. I let her daycare know so that if they saw some change in her behavior, they would know why it's happening and they'd be able to support
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
One thing I was consistently told was that do not hide cancer, or do not try to replace the word cancer with something else.
Mm-hmm.
Call it what it is, because
Yeah.
otherwise the fear of the word is going to cause them more fears.
Yeah.
So call it what it is, explain to them in age appropriate terms, and then support them, let them have hobbies. Obviously their friends, our neighbors, they were a very big part of this journey in keeping her
Mm.
having a
Yeah.
her hobbies and all of that. That just helped her be normal.
Yeah.
And on the
Good.
good days that you have, just spend time with them, and on the bad days just let them know that you need to rest. Like, just communicate that with them as well, so that
Mm.
they aren't feeling that, oh, I did something wrong because of which my mom doesn't want to talk to me
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think communication, being open, is a key in an age appropriate manner.
No, that's wonderful. Shomita, moving on to you. Any thoughts or questions for Jagrati?
Yeah, Jagruti di, as you mentioned that neighbors and your daughter's friends, they played a major role in this journey. So, based on your experience, can you share how, as a peer, neighbor, friend, we can help someone whom we know gets diagnosed with cancer?
Hello.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Go
oh
on. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
go on.
Okay. um, I think what really helped me was when my friends and my acquaintances and my family was there to just listen, when they were just there for me, because your medical team will take care of all the medical side of the things, but just being there and listening, and also respecting how I process my grief, because everyone will process grief at different points of time. So
Yeah.
the shock of the diagnosis, when you start worrying, you have kids and you're so young, and what would happen when you lose hair and things like that. So I think just respecting that each one is going to process it differently, and giving them that time and space, also giving them the time and space to share as little or as much as they want,
Yeah.
at the time that they want. So not setting them up on a pedestal, saying you're going to be strong and you're going to share this with the world and all of that. It's every person's personal choice on how they want to navigate this
Mm.
journey,
Mm.
because getting better is the
Eh,
aim here. So
Yeah.
I think that's, if we focus on all of that, and then of course if everyone educates themselves about breast cancer, because that's why I'm here today, and I want to be more open in talking about this topic now that I'm at the end of my journey, now that I've finished, almost finishing treatment, and I've focused on myself. I do realize it's very important to talk about the challenges that we face, um,
Yeah.
so that we can all of us together handle, if God forbid, if such a situation were to come in someone's life, that they can handle it better. So I think
Mm.
just going, using this month to increase your awareness, just reading that article or post that someone shares, asking questions when someone's going through it, when it's, of course, when it's appropriate, uh, you know that would help a lot.
That's wonderfully said, Jagrati. Before I move on to the last question, which is in part of what you just mentioned about your tail end of the treatment, I have just I picked on something that you mentioned that, and we all know about it, that cancer means someone just relates cancer to losing your hair. And that's like a fear or a phobia most of the women have. I know in Western countries like US or UK, we are more open and we are more educated about that. But if you have to for a second think about the same situation in our home country, if a woman is wearing a mask or a wig, automatically she's assumed that, oh, she's lost her hair, and then people look at the person differently. How would you approach that lady in India, for example? What would you advise that person about losing her hair and that fear about it?
Sure. So I remembered when I was around, I think 14, 15 years old, and I used to stay in a society, and I saw an auntie, and she was flat chested, and she had like really short hair. And I asked my mom, and my mom was like, "Oh, she got breast cancer. Her breast had to be taken off, and she lost her hair." And it was such a shock. The thing is, I tended to avoid her. Now when
Mm,
I look back, I just realized that how that would be affecting her when we are avoiding her.
yeah,
Not because that you're not good to look at, your all of that, but because we don't know what to say.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think a lot of that reaction might just understand that people might react like that. They might stare at you a couple of seconds more, but just this feeling, I did feel that people would give me a smile if I went to the emergency department. They would ask me about what's going on with me, and when I shared what was going on, and it was nice to have that conversation. So just giving people grace as well, thinking, oh, they must be praying for me, they know something's
mm,
wrong with me, and I'm sure they're wondering, and they don't know how to react. It's a shock for someone to think, oh, that person went through cancer, are they well, are they not well, what
yeah,
stage are they, and all of that. So I think just thinking that yes, that person's praying for me. Any stranger on the road who stares at you a bit too much, yes, they're praying for me. And the other thing is, it took me 4 days where I went with my head covered, and then I actually took off my hat because it was really hot and I couldn't bear it. And once I did that one journey of 200 meters going without it, uh, it was okay. So I
okay,
think somewhere we have to rip off the bandage, and you know and then of course finding your tribe. I think that's very important. Finding the
yeah,
support system of women who have gone through this, either within your city, your country, or online, now that we are fortunate to have Facebook and all those groups,
mm,
because they will truly understand what your situation is. They'll be able to help you, they'll be able
yeah,
to support you, they'll be able to give you the support that you need to, for someone just being there and listening to you when you want to
mm,
vent. So I think it's very important to find your tribe, in even in India as well. So if you're not getting support locally, or if there are not any foundations that's supporting you, if you were to reach out to other women through Facebook groups, that should help you feel connected, feel less alone.
ah, that's wonderful. Before I move on to the last question, sorry, Shomita, would you have any lasting thoughts for this question?
Yeah, what Jagrati mentioned is really important now. That is one of the positive aspects of social media, that we can help each other no matter where we are. And in Australia, there are much less people, but in India, with the crowded cities and everything, there are more chances of getting that emotional breakdown. So it's really a very positive and lovely way to think, to stick to thinking positive, that no matter what I don't mind what's going on in the other person's mind. I will just think that that person is thinking positive about me. That person is praying for me. That's really a great way to look at the thing. Yep.
True, true, agreed. Jagrati, one last question before we wrap up this episode. You mentioned in the previous part that you are the tail end of your treatment. So now moving forward, how does that look like? Does life go back to normal, or do you have to make certain adjustments, or you have certain side effects? What's happening now? What you're looking at?
Life goes back to a new normal.
Yeah.
So there are some treatments for me that's going to continue for a few months. Others have treatments that continue for a few years. There are side effects that are lingering from chemotherapy and radiation, and
Mm,
that will come on because of these other treatments. So just dealing with those, or overcoming those, and working with the medical team on that. Getting back my physical fitness, and
yeah. Yeah.
getting back the mental acuity, uh,
Mm,
just so that I can perform at the same level that I was. Or if
yeah.
there is a different way in which I need to now work um, to, like
Yeah.
in terms of multitasking or in terms of generally how I was working before to now. So to adjusting to that new normal is a thing that I'm exploring and I'm trying to work through now.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that we don't think of is, we usually think cancer causes weight loss, but breast cancer has been known to cause weight gain more often than not as well.
Okay.
So that's one aspect that I am dealing with. And then COVID. COVID is
Mm.
that's made everyone, we've had to be more cautious because we are immunocompromised
Mm.
for the next, if you ask, like, some doctors would say a year, the others would say for 2 or 3 years you're immunocompromised. So that's
Yeah.
making us be more cautious in
Mm.
venturing out into the world and take more precautions to make
Agree.
sure it doesn't hamper recovery.
Agree. Um, well, that was Jagati. Before anything else, that was so inspiring, and you gave us so much strength just by your words. And I'm sure our listeners will have the same thing. Before I close up, Shomita, I would like to come to you. Do you have anything else to ask Jagati or anything else to say on this part?
No, no more questions for Jagrati. Just I would like to close by saying we need to be careful, and there is no shame or no hide, nothing to hide when it comes to your body. So whenever you feel something is wrong, just go ahead, get yourself tested, and don't be late. That's very important.
Yeah,
Time is very important. Yep.
exactly. Exactly. Jagati, coming to you. Any last line, any last thought you would like to share with our listeners?
Uh, I just hope that all of your listeners have some sort of takeaway for the present or for the future, for their future reference, from this discussion that we've had, and
Mm.
that something sticks in their mind so that if it were required, that they are able to pull out that information from there. And I hope that I've been able to help them because that was the intent behind coming on here to your podcast.
I am more than sure you have, Jagati. You have no idea how much your words mean and weigh right now. And if I had to close the whole situation, I know we can't just close the topic of breast cancer or cancer for that matter in just a half an hour discussion. But if you had to give this one episode a closure, I would say, as Jagati mentioned earlier, positive thinking is the key. You have to keep your mind and body up in high spirits because this is somewhere if you fall into that dark abyss of negative thoughts, I think it's more difficult than to pulling up from your physical difficulties. So positive thinking, checkups, mammograms. Please, listeners, if you're listening to it, make sure you get all these done regularly. With that, we come to the close of this episode. We would really, really like to thank Jagrati for her time and for her effort and for that amazing journey she has had and her willingness to share with us. Jagrati, thank you so much for being with us today. We wish you all the best moving forward. Yeah, you were saying something.
No,
Jagrati, you were saying?
I'm good. Jagrati
Okay.
Di, were you saying something?
No, I'd just like to thank the both of you.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Ah, thank you, Jagrati. And for our listeners, if you have any feedbacks, thoughts, or questions on this topic or any other topic, please feel free to reach us at coconutchats@gmail.com. We are also available on Facebook with the same name. And please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Coconut Chats. We'll be back very soon with another riveting episode. Till then, please stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving your loved ones around you. With that, we say goodbye and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.